5-word lovers. What's that metronome clicking? Up there it is. Now it's not anymore. See, we're learning as we go. And you are learning now. This is the podcast, 5 Words, with me, your host, Sean Patton, comedian and podcast host. This is a podcast where every week one of my fabulous guests comes on, we chew the fat, we talk some shit, we get it out of our systems, and then my guest gives me 5 random words from a story of theirs, from their life. Based on those words and what I know about my guests, I attempt to guess what their story is. Am I right? Do I get the story every time? You're going to have to listen to find out. And this is a fantastic episode to listen to, episode 81, with the great Erin Jackson. Now, she is a comedian I've admired for a long, long time. She performs all over New York City at the Cellar almost every night, pre-pandemic, of course, multiple times a night. And she is on the new season. This is exciting, especially for anyone who loves comedy. This new season of Tiffany Haddish Presents They Ready on Netflix. That's a great lineup of comedians, and Erin is one of them. And it's really exciting for her because, like a lot of great comedians, she's been putting in the work and the time and slugging it out in the trenches with the rest of us. And now she's getting this boost on Netflix, and that's great for her. And this episode is just, listen to it. Just listen to it. I'm not even going to tell you anymore. And if you want to see some live Sean Patton comedy, well, you should be in Colorado this week because I will be in Denver tomorrow night with Cypher Sounds, Caitlin Cook, and some locals. And it's going to be a great show at Cervantes Masterpiece Ballroom. Ticket link, it's on my website. You'll find it. And it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to be in Fort Collins this weekend at the Comedy Fort. Check that out. Shows are already sold out, but they might have some tickets opening up. All distanced, all safe. Stay safe yourself. Stay distant from the bullshit. And stay healthy and enjoy this episode with Erin Jackson. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else. We're all in this together, and by in this together, I mean people who've been defeated by Tom Brady and a team he plays for, which is what my next guest and I have in common. But she also knows what it's like to have the team later beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Erin Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, comedian extraordinaire and unfortunate Philadelphia Eagles fan. Not that unfortunate, but I guess we're rivals.
I mean,
not really.
No, I don't think we're rivals. I appreciate New Orleans. You're a Saints fan, I'm assuming.
I am.
Yeah. No, I mean, you gotta respect Breeze. I have no hatred in my heart for him. We can all hate Tom Brady together.
Speaking of hating Tom Brady, so what? Yeah, because he ended up playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is like one of, what they're doing? The Buccaneers fans are raising money to put up a billboard in New Orleans that just says "We Dat," because the Saints battle cry is "Who Dat," like who's going to beat us, and they're actually doing it, which is like, come on, you guys.
I mean, they still live in Tampa. They should
exactly.
Show.
Thank you. Yes,
they should show.
That is definitely still like, I get it. You've got nothing else to distract you from this.
I've come to the conclusion that like clearly all of my hatred of Brady. No, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my hatred of Brady is just because he's too damn good. Like it's not, you know what I mean? There's the other stuff that I just don't agree with him in his opinions in life, but like you can't deny it. I mean, he's just fucking amazing. And I hate it.
I hate it. It's really like it almost feels scripted. You know what I mean?
But that Super Bowl strip sack, it'll always be there. I will never forget it. I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, I went pretty hard. I think everybody went pretty hard for Philadelphia. That it was crazy. But I know I was looking. Do you remember the TV show Blossom?
Yeah, of course.
So do you remember her brother Joey Lawrence?
Mm-hmm.
How he ended up, he attempted a music career. Do you remember this? I feel like we're both in the same age group where it's like,
yeah.
So he had a terrible song called I think the actual song is called "There's Nothing My Love Can't Fix for You," which is like just too long of a title.
Definitely.
And also the refrain. And we were talking, me and my friend were just talking about it. So we, of course, hey, let's YouTube the shit out of that. And in that, Joey Lawrence is wearing like an old school sort of that like lime green Philadelphia Eagles, like before the jerseys.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like a Randall Cunningham, like old school fucking jersey. And it was like, oh man, like.
Wait, Joey Lawrence, he's that guy?
Yes!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was a moment of like, oh my God, this guy, this video is terrible, and this song is fucking awful, but I would wear the shit out of that jersey.
Yes, I have so many jerseys. It's a problem. I have so many Eagles jerseys in my closet right now.
Do you happen to have a Brian Westbrook jersey?
I don't have a Westbrook jersey, but I loved him. But
I loved him as well.
Yeah. I'm a Weapon X kind of girl. I'm a Brian Dawkins girl. Like, that's my guy. Like, the greatest Eagle ever. I'm not, well, he's just my favorite. I won't say he's the greatest. He's my favorite. And I love him. I've got a Deshaun jersey, but only because my last name is Jackson.
That's fun. That's a fun.
Right?
When
that's
the names
fair.
line up, that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got a Randall.
Of course.
And
a Kevin Kolb. No, probably not.
No, definitely not a Kevin Kolb. But yeah, I definitely have, and I miss it. I go to games by myself, Sean. Like, I love it.
Oh, really? You've been to the link?
Because a lot of times, it's last minute. You can get really cheap tickets, and you can get really great seats for single seat tickets when you only need one, because people are trying to get rid of them because nobody wants just one ticket, but I do. So I'll be sitting on the 50-yard line by myself, like, in the 100 section, just like, hey, you're all my new friends, because we're all Eagles fans. So get enough beer in you and everybody's friends.
Well, that's okay. So great point. And do you remember? I mean, it was painful memory, I'm sure, but it was 2006, early 2007, the Eagles came to the Superdome. It was like a divisional playoff game, Saints Eagles, and the Saints won. I can't even remember. It wasn't Nick Foles, whoever was before, and it wasn't Donovan McNabb, whoever was between those two quarterbacks. Maybe it was Kevin Kolb, but
I mean, there was Michael Vick.
Could it have been Michael Vick? Wow. Speaking of Michael Vick, fellow comedian and fellow Philadelphia Eagles fan, Jay Okerson regularly walks around in a Michael Vick jersey.
Yes,
which is, oh, it's fucking hilarious. But it could have been Michael Vick. But
yeah,
they came to town. I wasn't at the game, but I was in the city at the time. And afterwards, Saints win, and it was the first time the Saints are going to the NFC Championship. We're all ecstatic, and there's all these Philly fans just flushed out into the streets. And me and my friends end up at a bar with two dudes and this one girl from Philadelphia. And at first, it was like playful shit talking, and then it seemed like it might be like, uh-oh, wait a second, this is getting a little too heated. And then we ended up drinking till like 8 in the morning. Not that late, but it was like definitely at least 4 or 5 in the morning on like a Sunday night, I remind you, with these Philly kids. And I've never seen them again, never spoke to them again, would probably have a hard time picking them out of a lineup, but I will always remember them because it was just like the two
brotherly love, man.
Yeah. The like mid-Atlantic mindset and the Gulf Coast mindset and yeah, brotherly love. It's the vibe is very, very, very mashable. Yeah.
I was going to say, that's what I imagine New Orleans is like all the time. That's my picture. Like, yeah, you drink till 8 in the morning. Isn't that what you do all the time? That's what I think New Orleans is.
It happens. It definitely, and it's a strange feeling when you're like, oh, the sun is up. And it's a moment of like, should I be proud or disappointed in myself? I'm not, well, I guess, how about neither? And I'll just have another drink while I decide.
At this age, I'd be very proud.
Exactly. Yeah, true. Right? At the ripe old age of 34.
Right. That's how old I am.
Exactly. You could, wait, is Philly where you started doing comedy?
No, DC.
Oh, I think DC, I don't know what it was like when you started, but I think it's a very underrated comedy scene.
I think it's great. I mean, it sounds like it's gotten even better way better since I left, but it was a great city. It was a smart town, you know what I mean? But like super diverse, but like there were smart crowds and yeah, it was a great place to get started. And we were close enough to New York that I could still pop up sometimes and, but it was, when I was just getting started, but
Right.
I miss it. If it were not for comedy, I would have lived in DC my whole life. I went to college there. That's how I got down there.
Did you go to Howard?
I did.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I was just guessing. I was gonna say Georgetown, and then I thought Howard.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. In a pinch, I was like, I'm gonna guess the Black University first.
And I think you
Just
guessed smart.
yeah, just because I don't. I
You
feel like
know?
I feel like Georgetown isn't Georgetown. I don't know anything about Georgetown University. All I know is that Allen Iverson played basketball there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the extent of what I know about Georgetown University. Wait, Howard. Now, what was going to college in DC? Is there a lot of people who are like? Were there people? Was there a lot of Like, I'm going to be in politics.
No, I
No.
wouldn't say any more than probably, I mean, maybe those weren't my friends, I would say.
What was your major?
TV production.
Oh, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So maybe over there, I mean, I know that was a focus, it was very politically like activist minded at Howard, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't say there were a lot of people who wanted to go into, or that I knew a lot of people that wanted to go into politics proper, you know. I went there because Howard had a commercial radio station, like one of the top stations in the market was on our campus, and we had a TV station, we had a PBS station that we ran. So for me, it was like in communications, you're in this major market, you have TV station, radio station, BET, CNN. I worked at CNN for years, and so I went there for the
Oh,
media of it all. Yeah.
you worked at CNN for years.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say I worked there for years. I interned there for years. I worked there when I graduated for a couple years.
See,
And
that's
then
fucking
and then
cool.
I
But
quit.
then was it stressful because it's just
Well, I hate CNN. No, I just hate. I mean, I watch it all the time, but I have disdain for cable news just because I have seen how the sausage is made, and it's just so biased. But we all knew that, so yeah.
Did you just is that a phrase? Is that your phrase? How the sausage is made?
No,
I've never heard that before. It's
really?
fantastic. That's a fucking good one. Because
Yeah, no, yeah, that's not mine.
especially when it comes to cable news, because it is a lot of stuff you don't want to know. Is
Right.
I don't care. I just want to eat it. But you're like, well, but what's it? What's in it? How
Yeah,
did
no,
they
I
make it?
saw a guy. I remember I was working at CNN. I tell the story. It was the 20th anniversary of CNN. So that was like in 2000. And I remember every CNN bureau in all the big cities was doing like a retrospective of all the big stories from their place. Like, so all at the Atlanta, like if you were in Atlanta, they were like, these are all the big stories that came through in Atlanta the past 20 years. This is what happened in DC in the past 20 years.
Okay.
And I remember doing a story on the Million Man March because that was huge, right? The Million Man March DC.
Absolutely.
And they wouldn't let me use any video of Farrakhan or mention his name.
Oh.
And it was because the producer was Jewish and he was offended by the statements that, you know what I mean? But I'm like, how do you do a story on the Million Man March? You don't mention or show Louis Farrakhan. Like, you don't have to be a fan of his to go, but that's not the news. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like things like that, where I just feel like, yeah, it's all about who's telling the story and, you know, their biases and their opinions. And yeah.
That is a great point. Is that like no one wants to, especially in journalism, no one wants to just report anymore.
Yeah.
They want to present it like it's like they created it almost. You know what I mean? Like, we're reporting on the Million Man March and everything's friendly and look how great everyone's getting along. And it's like, but this march exists.
I mean, it was very peaceful, but but
right.
Yeah.
It's peaceful, but it only exists because it's in protest of something and in unity against oppression. And you're gonna have some people who have opinions that are different. That's, you know, as well as I do.
Just the organizer, just the guy.
Yeah. Just the person who started it. True.
Right.
But
that's all. But yeah. So then, but yeah.
you want to have their, you want to, but I guess it's like a CNN or even, like a Fox News, obviously. And then you go
Mhm.
now into this One American News and all this deep right shit. But like, it's almost like they want to present a case that doesn't make you mad at them at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah, that
it's,
makes sense.
and that's, I don't know, I just feel like that's not what the news is. It's like, no, you just,
It's news entertainment. It's not, it's like
mm-hmm.
at this point, when I watch cable news, I'm like, these are the personalities I like the most. And if I want the truth, I've got to read it and seek it out from other sources. You know what I mean? These are just people trying to
Yes.
fill time for 24 hours a day. They have to talk about something. So you have to always just remember that it's not like the news that comes on it's not like the nightly news where it comes
Yeah.
on, it's on for an hour. You get the information. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
cable news
certainly.
is just like, we've got to find shit to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like eating a meal, but that because you're like, I need, this is healthy, right? And then, but no, it's not, because growing up in the South, it's like, I got a salad. This salad should nourish me and you put healthy things into my body. Like, but there's a bunch of shredded cheese and bacon, and this
Yeah.
sauce is made with fucking pig lard, the dressing. So it's not actually healthy at all. It's terrible
Right.
for you. You got to seek it elsewhere. And I'm just saying, news networks, be a fucking salad if that's
Yeah.
what you.
Be a real salad.
I mean, I'm amazed by anyone who can get into that world. Like you mentioned, being in production. Like I just do not have the brain. My brain just collapses when I even think about order or any sort of
Mm.
structure. So the fact that you could do that, I mean, because but then that makes a lot of sense once you become a comedian, because you start to, structure your brain, and you start to, joke wise, you start to think of everything like from a comedic angle, where it's like, this is what's really happening, but wait a second, where's the angle, where's the spin, where's the,
Yeah.
and
That's kind of true.
I guess that is structure in a way. But like, because and speaking of news, you know how it is when we're doing comedy and we're talking about certain subjects, people don't want to hear certain aspects of certain subjects because they may get offended, they may
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So they also, they don't want their comedy with any harsh points either.
Right. We don't want, just give comedy without an opinion that differs from mine, which is fuck you. Like
Yeah,
that's what this is.
exactly.
Somebody it's pointed at somebody. So maybe
Did you
it's not you all the time. Deal with it.
right? Exactly. Were you doing comedy and CNN interning at the same time?
No, no, I
No.
wasn't. I have been doing comedy for like 17 years. And I probably left CNN in like '01 or '02. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So that was back. That was like during the Bush era.
Yeah, I worked that whole like I worked on the inaugural pool for the Bush inauguration. So it was like I was the person who like ordered all the fencing for did
Holy
all the
shit.
like the logistics for like the inauguration, but it was that whole time leading up to it. We had no idea who the president was going to be, right? So we were like waiting outside the Supreme Court and there were protests in the street and we were just like maybe we'll find out who it is soon so we can finish planning this shit.
So
But
wait, so this most recent inauguration, then you were very like, oh, there's a lot. I get
it
what's
felt
going
very
on. Huh?
familiar in a way. I mean, if there wasn't the violence back then, but
Right,
there were
right.
definitely the protests. But it was like it felt like a legitimate challenge kind of thing. You know what I mean? It was
Mm-hmm.
like I had like a couple hundred votes in one state, which okay, yeah, you know what I mean? But like I remember I posted something like I have all these pictures and stuff from being out that during that time, you know what I mean? And being in the streets and waiting and all those protests and camping out that I posted like right after the election this time. I remember doing that, just showing like this is like 20 years ago. It felt like it's like deja vu in a
Yeah.
way. But yeah.
I guess it was. What's super crazy that I think about that era too, because I feel like that was the first time I was ever like aware
Right.
of like, like, wait a second, this isn't, there isn't a honesty to this whole system
Right.
that I've known all my life, and but I guess the big difference was it never felt like George W. Bush was this pure piece of shit. you know, he didn't like him or not. It was just sort of like, okay, it's one of these two guys that's going to win. And one of them's obviously, okay, his brother just happens to be the governor of the state that's in question.
Right.
But then George W. is just I don't know what I'm doing. Shit. I'm sorry.
Right.
And versus what we luckily fucking pushed away from, you know, late last year in January. I mean, but did you watch the inauguration?
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
watched it.
it was very like the whole fucking time I was just like, oh God,
Nervous. Yes.
oh
Let me
God.
tell you
Yeah.
something. I was still in DC, living in DC. I remember the Obama inauguration, and we got out there early and we went on the parade route. And I remember the nervousness that especially Black folks felt for Obama, like when he got out of the car and walked and everything like that. You're just like, are the snipers ready? Are they? Because what if so? You know what I mean? Like, you just like, don't let anything happen to him. Oh my God. I remember that anxiety, and I never thought I would feel that again for like a Joe Biden
I know, right?
inauguration.
Yeah.
But I think about that too, and I'm like, people were like, you feel however you want to feel about any politician, but I'm like, Joe Biden, Sean, he was trying to be president for like 40 years. He finally gets to be president. No real inauguration, no balls, no freaking real parade. He gets like a pandemic and civil war. and we're like, okay, go fix everything. Like, I kind of feel bad for the dude. You know what I mean?
100%. Because he was also at those Obama inaugurations.
Right.
So he saw the rollout and was in a part of it in a way. And he's like, well, I guess I had two of those. That makes up for one of these. That's a terrible Biden impersonation. But
yeah, I was like, who? I don't know if that's Biden, but yeah.
Like, has Sean ever actually heard Joe Biden speak? It's yeah. I mean, that was the thing. There were a couple of moments during the debates because I get so fucking anxious watching presidential debates. I guess I watched Obama's debates because it always felt like he was on top of everything. Like, it never felt like I don't know. It felt like with McCain, he just was smooth and chill and then it felt like with Romney, he was just able to swat away everything Mitt Romney said. But these debates was just like, fuck, because Joe Biden he'd be nailing it, and then all of a sudden he'd stumble over like a word, and then there was just a moment where you're like, oh shit, please don't let this be the moment it all falls apart because you can't remember what you were saying, and you call someone by the wrong name. You're like, I'm running against my opponent, Hillary Clinton. Like, I don't do that.
Right.
You know, like, fuck.
And I kept thinking, like, put him in a bubble. Don't let him go outside. Keep him alive and healthy. Like, I just kept thinking, just protect that man and get him into the White House.
Yeah, get him in so we can get. I mean, yeah, it's fucking crazy. But hey, at least we got here. You know what I mean? Like, now it's just about getting further into the right place. When you left DC, you said, wait, no, when did you move to New York?
I came to New York in 2014.
Perfect. So you were you were in DC for a good decade doing comedy then.
Well, kind of, sort of. I was in DC for about 7 years, and then I actually there's like a 3-year break where my career kind of I put the pause on it because I had well, I don't want to tell you the story because it's my story.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second.
So yeah, I wasn't in DC quite as long as that, put it like that.
Okay, perfect. So here's a little lead in, or just a little well, tell me. Okay, well, let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get to it.
Okay.
Because I got the thing I want to bring up afterwards. That is a connection between the two. Well, I'll tell you this first. So, because I looked just now briefly at your IMDb, and you did Live at Gotham, which what year was that?
2008, maybe.
Where'd it go? Shit. Okay, yeah, because I did it in 2009.
Okay.
And do you remember everyone who was on your episode?
No.
No? Do you remember who hosted?
Jim Norton.
Jim Norton. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When I did it, my
All
host was
those
Charlie
numbers.
Murphy, and I don't remember everyone else who on my show, but I remember one other person was Tiffany Haddish.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's where Tiffany and I met, which is a just a perfect jump to uh, you now have a Netflix special.
I do. I
And
do. It
that
came out
is
last week.
yes, that is so. I was beyond fucking happy to see that because I love that
Thank you.
Tiffany, got to a certain level and did what I think all comedians should do when you get to a certain level is
Yeah.
be like, hey, here's some people you all have fucked up and not realized are great yet. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna help. And when I saw your name in the lineup, I was triple like, finally,
Thank
like
you.
that's so fucking great. How does it feel?
It feels it feels amazing. What she did is just amazing. I mean, the
Mhm.
first season that she did it, she picked, I think pretty much everybody were like friends of hers, people that she knew. I had never met Tiffany. Like for
Mhm.
her to do this for me, and we were not friends and we had not met each other, for her to just be like, oh, I'm a fan of what you do and I'm going to share my platform. Like, who does that? Like, it was so beyond. So, it's a pandemic and you're sitting on the sofa drinking bourbon, eating cheeses. And she's like, hey, want to do a special? And I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
And it's crazy, right? Because it's the biggest opportunity I've ever had in the business, but also I haven't done comedy in 5-6 months. Like,
Wow.
how do I get ready for this? I wasn't, I was being
Wow.
super careful.
Yeah.
So I didn't have many shows to go out there and really prep for it. But I was like, I'm not gonna, I'm like, what is the Hamilton thing? I'm not throwing away my shot. I was
Right.
like, okay, get ready, and it's been so great. It's
Well,
been
yeah,
so great. The feedback has been great.
especially like what you mentioned earlier, like you've got 17 years under your belt. Like I feel like that's almost like a muscle that, like, yeah, you want to stay sharp, of course, and the rust, you want to never be rusty, but there's also a level of like muscle memory, or it seems to just come back when you're just like, I know it's
Yeah,
been
I
a
think
while,
that's
but
why she probably picked, you know what I mean? Why her thing was like, I'm gonna pick people who have been in the game a little longer.
sure.
Some for some people. I know some of the people in the beginning in the first season have been doing comedy just probably as long as me. But like, I think when you pick a Tony Woods, you go, okay, he could take a couple months off and still be Tony Woods, right?
Right, right, yeah, yeah.
And so I think, you I think that was probably part of the thinking.
I feel like Tony Woods, it's like Tony Woods, you can tape a special and he doesn't know it's actually happening and it'll still be funny.
Right. You know what I love
Yeah.
about Tony? I feel like, you watch Tony and you think, I watch Tony and I think, it sounds like he's hearing this for the first time too. Like, I feel like he's saying these words for the very first time. And he probably is, it's just, he's so different and I just love him. I've known Tony since the first night I did comedy. My first open mic, I met him.
Oh, because he's a DC
He's
guy
DC
too.
guy. Yeah, it
Right.
was in a sushi bar in DuPont Circle and he was there, and I've known him my whole comedy career.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, wait, have you ever yeah, you did the Cellar the Vegas or
Uh-huh.
so the first time I did it was with Tony, and him and I and a buddy of mine end up at there's a bar in the Rio as soon as you walk in. It's one of those little like satellite bars, and it was like a Wednesday night, so we're there just drinking after the shows, and at a certain point he's just talking, telling stories, being fucking ha ha. My buddy gets up to go to the bathroom, and when he comes back to both of us, he's like, hey, look behind you. And I look behind me, and there's like four people who were not at the show who had clearly just been listening to Tony be Tony and were like laughing and waiting for him to
Like they
say
were at the
something else.
table.
Right. And I don't even know if he was aware of it because he was just talking to us and to the bartender. And, I think I'm pretty sure he could have seen the people, but like when he saw it, he was like, oh, that I should go over there and ask him to fucking pay for this. I should go ask him to buy tickets. And it was like,
Right,
haha.
right.
But like, it was just like the guy is such a
Yeah.
naturally just you see why Chappelle's like Tony Woods because
Hmm.
it's like he just oozes comedy.
It's bananas that people like that everybody doesn't know who Tony Woods is. You know what I mean? Like as comedians, we know comics and we're like, why isn't this person famous? They're amazing. And how, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
can't wait for the world to get to know some people. I'm like, oh, I can't wait till y'all find out about so and so. Yeah.
Well, I mean
He's
that's
great.
how that's how it is for you now, because like it's the thing I find so interesting about Netflix is people always talk about like you remember like a year or two ago people were always like they're putting out too much, it's ruining comedy, but I feel like that has sort of leveled off and changed. I don't feel like, yeah, I feel like there was a time where Netflix was just pumping out so much stand-up comedy content that it diluted the waters. But I feel like pre-pandemic, maybe
Hmm.
even a year or so before the pandemic, they kind of slowed the pace down and upped the quality.
Hmm.
And it obviously still has this massive stamp of approval in a way because I mean I look at like a guy like Andrew Schultz who had built a fucking army on
Right.
his own independently and was making money and selling out venues and famous in many ways. And he still, when Netflix came knocking, was like, sure. And he, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like getting a Netflix special, I still think has the power it always has, really, and it's global. So like,
Yeah.
there's someone right now in Slovenia watching
That's
you.
been so cool. Yeah.
You
I've
know?
gotten some messages and I'm like, oh my God, you're where?
Oh,
It's
that's
the
amazing.
coolest thing ever. It's the coolest thing ever. I never, I spent so much time. I worked cruise ships for years. I did colleges for years. I was just out there on the road featuring, you know what I mean? Like,
You
so
did
many of
college.
us.
That's so funny that you did because I'm like, wow, you must have flown over some of these kids' heads.
Oh, I did
You
colleges
know?
for a decade.
Wow.
Little pretty much like exclusively most of the time. I mean, I was at the because we get to a level as a comic where you may not be famous. Well, you're definitely, you're not famous, but you have the time,
Sure.
but nobody's going to book you to headline. And yeah, you can feature, but you can't make money. You can't live off
No, no,
featuring.
no.
So it's like colleges and cruise ships were the only thing I had because I didn't really have any management that was working for me or anything like that. So yeah, I did that for so long. And so I just kind of thought, if I can be the kind of comic who like other comics respect when they see her in the club,
Sure.
and
Absolutely you are.
like it was kind of like that's that'll be it. If I can make a living doing that, that'll be fine. I never so like this shit is like icing and cherry and sprinkles. It's like I never thought that I would be on Netflix. I just never even imagined that would be something that would be a part of my career. So it's been so super cool. Yeah.
That is super cool because like I'm just it's interesting to me because like I think that like comedy at colleges should be the frontier, much like college itself, where it's designed in a way open up your mind. The acts they should encourage to do the same. And I have not done a ton of colleges, but I can say 80% of the ones I have done were very like, hey, here are your restrictions. We really need you to kind of.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of colleges I've done. They're like, we don't care, say whatever. But then for the most part, there's been a lot of like, here's, no language, no, please don't talk about drugs or sex or specifically not religion.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not saying, I don't think you're like a dirty, filthy comic, but I look at you and I'm like, you just don't strike me as someone who like would pander to college kids. And I know you probably weren't, but
I
like,
don't. Yeah, I didn't. I
yeah,
didn't pander to them. But I also don't have the kind of act that was going to offend anybody. So I would get a whole bunch of like women's colleges, and so
sure, okay,
I didn't have to really change much to adhere to the rules. So that was always good. And then I would just do like a half hour material and a half hour crowd work. Honestly,
smart,
like I just would find out what's happening at the school, talk to the kids, and we would just talk because and I mean maybe not quite a half hour of crowd work, but I definitely had some jokes that were just for college, like that I would open up for, like, my college top 5 to 8.
right,
And
yeah,
then after that, I'm telling the jokes I want to tell about being an adult, and you'll laugh or you won't laugh as hard. And then we'll
right,
talk about what's happening at your school. Who's a couple? Who's what? You know what I mean? Like I found a way to, I mean,
smart. I mean,
yeah,
wait,
that's
did
all.
you
That's
now? How many of these colleges you said in 10 years? Were you going up ice cold to just like, all right, like a student
all of
activities
them.
director? Yeah, right. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I never had an opener. I never brought anybody with me. It was always
Yeah.
just some kid or a student activities director. Like, and next we'll have Erin Jackson doing comedy, and she's done this. And they'll read the whole. I'm like, oh, you're reading my whole bio off my website? Is that what's
Yeah.
happening right now? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then I'm like, can you just say my name last? Can you not just say my name first? Like, it would just be
right.
the worst intro. But you know what? I'm so grateful for colleges because my college agent is the person who kept me in this business.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
real.
exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like necessary to what you. A lot of us have had to do what you've had to do. It's like
Yeah.
you're making a living, and
Yep.
fortunately, though, like that does also, I think, build your armor as well.
Yeah.
And I've definitely experienced it where you're like, all right, so you show up at the college and you're like, all right, so there's a DJ now and there's pizza. And so they're going to eat pizza and the DJ's going to play for another half an hour. And then we're going to bring you on. It's like, oh, you're not even going to ask them to sit down
Right.
before you just.
So I'm just gonna start talking in the middle of the cafeteria.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is like, oh, community colleges would be the worst because they're not at night because nobody's there at night. So
Right.
they're during the day and you're just literally in the cafeteria during lunch. Because sometimes cafeteria or the little where they eat at night, it's fine at a regular college, but at community college, it's noon. You're
Yeah.
standing in the middle, like you're standing next to the buffet line. You're like, who the fuck is this? Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, why is this happening? Everybody's 50. It's
Yeah.
just,
Why am I
it's
fucking?
good. It's like 50-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and it's like the weirdest. It's
And neither one of them want to be there.
nobody wants to be there, or they don't want me to be there for sure. They want me to be quiet.
But yeah, do you know that? Do you notice that moment? I mean, this isn't just exclusive to colleges, but I think it's the moment when you realize that an audience has given it, like they've accepted, and now kind of like when you start off, sometimes like it's whether it be just because the show's in a weird place, or maybe it's just a weird audience at a club, but you can tell for like there's like a 10, maybe 15-minute time where they're just shitting through you. They're just like, well, fine. But then there comes a moment, and it's like whether they look at you more, or maybe you just finally get one of them to laugh. But you could tell they're like, okay, I could be on board with this. This
Yeah,
feeling of like, aha, I got you.
yeah.
Now, what
Sometimes
I
it's just
do with
one person who I
sometimes
pick
just
out. Like
yeah.
I'm like, I just need to. If I could just get her, and then I can talk about or
Yes.
get him. Then I can talk about getting him and how I've been paying attention this whole hour.
Yeah.
Because yeah, even that. I mean, that's anywhere though. Like it's like the people that aren't enjoying it, you zoom in on them so much more than the rest of the people who are having a good time. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Have you
but
ever done colleges or shows in Canada?
not really.
There's the only my personal favorite college experience performing was in Winnipeg. I was doing a club there, and part of the deal with the it's a club called Rumors, which
Okay.
sounds so much more like a strip club than it does a
Yeah.
comedy club, right? But part of the deal was on the Friday you went and did a fucking noon college gig at their local school, and it was like, well, okay, fine, the money's good. But on that day, this was in 2014, it was the fucking Winter Olympics, and the Canadian hockey team, which is basically just like saying the Canadians, because it's the biggest
Right.
fucking
Right.
thing in Canada's hockey. They were playing Finland in like the Olympics at that exact fucking time. So we get there, and there's all these people in the cafeteria, and they're watching the game on the big screen, and they're like, all right, we're going to just shut that off and start the show. And I'm like, what, wait, why are we even doing a show right now? It's the goddamn Olympics, and your team is in. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
insane.
You got to
Please
keep
don't do
that
this.
on.
I'll give you
Yeah.
back you could keep the money. Like, why? But they're like, no, it's fine. Everyone knows. And I remember they shut the TV off, and there was an initial like, ah, and then the student union guy had the microphone, like, hold on, everyone, hold on. There's a comedian now. It's time for a comedian, and everyone immediately was just like, oh, okay, you're right. We knew this, and
Right. We came here.
right. And I was like, oh, there really is this like natural sort of friendliness to Canadians, whereas like you put that exact same
Yeah.
situation in America, where just any American sports team is doing anything, and they're like, no, there's a comedian now. It would have turned right into, you fucking piece of shit. Why would you
Oh,
rob
nobody
us?
who even commits to turning off the TVs. I mean, the fact that they turn off the TVs was great. Sometimes they'll just turn them
Nuts.
down.
That's
And then
true.
you'll see the kids.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you're bombing, just point to the TV and let them watch for a few minutes. Yeah.
Right, right.
When you did cruise ships, Because I've heard a lot about this, and the only time I've ever done a cruise was an EDM cruise, an
Oh,
electronic dance
wow.
music. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So that was a completely different experience. But like,
Yeah.
did you have to do the one set clean and then another set dirty?
So I worked a cruise line that was super conservative and old, and it was squeaky clean the whole time.
Okay.
Um, just me. Uh, so
Right.
yeah, no, it was squeaky clean. 80-year-olds. Holland America is the line I worked for. So
Okay.
yeah,
Where
it was
was
good.
what was the cruise route or like the
Oh man. I mean, I've cruised. Depends on the time of year. In the summer, it would be like I would mainly do Seattle to Alaska for
Oh
a couple. I
wow.
would do it for a
Oh,
couple months. It was beautiful. Like I'd be out for a month or two and just do that. And
just hopping
then
from cruise ship, basically ship to ship.
sometimes no, because those are only 1 week cruises. So people are getting on and off. So you could stay on the same ship for 2 months. And
Holy shit,
it's
really?
a different crowd going out and a different, you know what I mean? Like every time you get back to
Sure.
Seattle, it's a whole different audience. So that I've done like um what is the one that they do a lot? Boston to Montreal.
Oh, these are
And
okay. So this not
yeah.
like no Caribbean, no
No, I've done
like.
the Caribbean
Oh,
ones
you have,
too.
okay.
So like Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, all those, Bahamas, St. Thomas. I have all of them, you know.
Wow,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is so that staying on a cruise ship for that long is simultaneously enticing and seems like it could get very like
Oh
frustrating
yeah.
and like I just need to get off this fucking cabin fever, literally. But at the same
No, it
time,
is. Once you're on for a long time though, I feel like if I was on for like a month, it would be cool because after a while, you had friends on different ships. You had you met the
mm-hmm,
other entertainers,
right,
right? And so like the bands would be so you'd be like, oh, so and so's on this ship, and you would find out who's going to be where before.
right,
And once you're on for a while, then people take the time to get to know you, right? Because if you're only on for a week or two, nobody's
sure,
going to invest in getting to know you. But if you're going to be on for 2 months, then everybody's like, oh, hey, who are you? And then you have people to hang out with during the day and that kind of thing. So I shouldn't say I hate it, but I got better at it. You know what I mean? But it always
sure,
was a time to like get writing done. Like I had a lot of time to myself. And I
yeah.
was like, well, I'm gonna just sit in this room. I might as well get something accomplished. And sometimes in the winter I'd be in the Bahamas. So what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, right. There's perks to everyone. Yeah.
But no more cruise ships after the Rona.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
done.
I mean, when that was all first happening too, I bet there was a moment where you were like, "Oh, I feel your pain." People
Yeah.
who've been stuck on this thing just floating.
I
But
have so many friends who make their whole living doing cruise ships, and I'm like, what are they gonna do? They haven't been
yeah,
able to work at all. So,
yeah,
yeah,
that is, I mean, well, you got to, and I mean, and that's you said it earlier, like you never thought you could go from cruise ships to Netflix, and you did.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like I
that's
don't know,
true.
I just find that very like inspiring to the core of what I think everyone should keep in mind is just like if you love something and you've just fucking do it and
Yeah.
don't pay too much attention to the situation you're doing it in, just what you're doing, just what you're actually doing, and believe it will lead to a better situation.
All right. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that was very. I remember I saw your post on. You posted a picture of you looking at the or like walking by the billboard by
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, I believe, by the garden.
No, it's in
Or
it's in the Times Square.
Times Square, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's just like so.
I
I mean,
know.
that's just such a feeling I imagine of it's fucking so cool,
Yeah.
and I hope you develop a giant fan base in Portugal as well as the other as well as the United States, of course. But I'm just thinking of somewhere I'm like, what would be exotic and
Yeah.
great a
Yeah.
place to go? Just be just you show up thinking like, well, I'm gonna do this one gig, it'll be great, and they're like waiting for you with signs,
That would be great.
and it's like, okay, I'm staying in Lisbon.
Yes.
So Erin, if you don't mind, may I have your 5 words?
Okay. I didn't let me think of the order that I want to tell you them in.
Sure, sure.
Oh wait, that's 6 words. Okay.
Ooh.
But it's because it's one thing. I don't need that one though. Well, no, I
Okay.
kind of do.
Well, I mean, if you want, if it, you mean like one
But it's
thing,
like a
like
phrase. It's like it's Weather Channel.
Oh yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay,
That's fine.
that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Weather Channel.
Okay.
Pissed.
Pissed. Hell yeah.
Squat.
Squat.
Stakeout.
Hell yeah.
Court.
Oh, that's a fucking humdinger right there. So we got Weather Channel, pissed, squat, stakeout, court.
Mm-hmm.
What I think happened here, this story, knowing you and having learned more about you throughout this episode, I'm thinking there was a time, a young Erin Jackson, fresh with that TV production career, degree, and you were like, you know what I want to do? I want to work at the Weather Channel because I feel like they could use some goddamn help, and maybe even early comedic ideas like would be maybe I can help make the weather funny and people would pay more attention. Hell yeah. But of course they're not having it. After the interview, they're just like, we're sorry, but what are you trying to bring comedy to the weather? What are you, insane? No, thank you. So you naturally are pissed, because you're young and you're like, I don't want to, you know what? You haven't heard the last of me. So you fucking storm out and you're like, I just got to blow off some steam. You know what? I need to do some squats because everybody, when angry, that's when you should exercise. You're like, yeah, fuck it. So you go to the gym and you're just pounding away.
You are good.
Oh yeah. You're just fucking squatting away, right? And then you're like, you know what? You know what I got to do? The boss, the guy who said no, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to upset you, but like that fucking guy, I've got to get him in a one-on-one situation, okay? And just explain to him why he's wrong. But I can't do it in the office because, I'm going to figure out where he lives. So you follow him home and you're sitting out there staking him out. Right? Thinking of the perfect time to just roll up on this guy and be like, listen, here's why you're wrong. And I'm going to fucking change your mind right here and there. Unfortunately, that's illegal. So he took you to court. But in court, you pleaded the case that, hey, I have a better idea for programming on the Weather Channel. The judge agreed with you, but of course, couldn't legally make them hire you. So he just threw the case out. There it is.
I'm amazed.
Yeah, no, I'm actually kind of embarrassed because I forgot to tell you that you should tell me a story, 5 words from a story you haven't told me before, because that's one that everyone knows. The time you used your Weather Channel comedy pitch to get a court case thrown out.
Yes. Well,
what's the real story?
That is a story. But the one that I was going to tell today was about how when I first wanted to leave DC and move to New Jersey, to New York, Jersey, New York, whatever, I rented out my condo and got a squatter.
Oh.
And it took me a year to get it.
When you say a squatter, you just mean like someone who was living there not paying you, or?
So I rented it to her, but she never paid me.
Oh shit.
So once she moved her shit in, she didn't pay me. And so it took me 11 months to get her out, and I had to go move in with my parents in like Virginia, like down by Virginia Beach. Awesome. So yeah, I wound up living down there for 3 years. So I lived, it was like a year trying to get her out. Then I got sick. And I was sick for a year, didn't know why I was sick. Then I had to get better. And then I moved to New York. But yeah, like I was trying to catch her. Obviously the court is, I took her to court. But I would stake out the place waiting for her to leave so I could go in and see. And she just destroyed it. Oh. And it was like, she was a nightmare, but she gave some good stories, which I need to write more about. Every time I try to write about it, I get pissed because I'm like, and it just comes out mean. You know what I mean? I'm like, but I think I'm ready. That was, you know what? I forgot another word that I could have used, but anyway, would have been good, but still. So that was that story. The Weather Channel part was that DC is weird because it's like it's not a state, right? So the laws are different, and the federal marshals have to, obviously remove you when you get evicted, but you can't evict somebody when it's below 35 degrees.
That is fucking ridiculous. But it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm like, she didn't pay me when it was 35 degrees. So why does
Yeah, right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
right. So I was checking the weather channel every day. I didn't live in DC anymore. So I'm like, when is the weather? You know what I mean? Like once it gets above 35, then I can get them over there to get the shit out. But
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
was on this long ass list anyway. So that's the story.
So you wait,
Um,
you basically had to be aware of her, whether like what she was doing in the apartment, and also watching the Weather Channel to be like, but does it coincide? Fuck, it's two, but
I
it's
remember on my
32.
record, I put like, is it above eviction yet? Like I would check the weather. Like, is the weather above eviction yet? When is the high going to be eviction? No, yeah, I would just pop up to DC just to like go, just to wait for her to leave. And she had a good job. Like she was like a serial squatter. Like she had been evicted 3 times in 4 years. And the real estate agent that I used to find her hadn't done a background check and hadn't seen her stuff in landlord tenant court. And like I sued them and I sued everybody, but I never got any money.
Oh, so this wasn't okay. So wait, this wasn't just like she moves in and falls on unfortunate circumstances and is broken.
No, she intended to never pay me.
Wow.
Yeah, she just would move to places, stay until she could get kicked out, and then move to the next place. All she needed was a deposit, and then you would stay there until she got evicted. That
That
was her.
is
That was her situation. Like
Jesus.
she was the worst. So that was my detour in terms of people are like, well, you weren't in DC. Where did you go? Like you weren't in New York. You weren't in DC. Where were you? I was like, oh, I was in Eastern Virginia with my parents for 3 years, not progressing in comedy at all. So yeah.
Jesus. Having to fight constantly to get wait now, 11 months is a length too. That's like
Yeah.
I'm sure there had to be days where you were just like, just fucking let her keep the goddamn I just
Well, never that. But I
no,
definitely was like,
never
I'm
mind,
gonna.
not that.
I was like, there's some people that need to visit the condo. There's some people that need to go there and have a chat.
Yeah.
But it was like she knew all the rules, so she would like try to pay me a portion of it, and then try to get the courts to negotiate to see like, can I be on a payment plan? And then I would have to go to court, and then you know what I mean. I would have to accept it or not. And then like she just knew all the ways to not get kicked out. And she had a kid, so it was they were more. It was just the worst.
So she was so wait, this is crazy because it's the kind of person who's like, I'm not going to pay rent with money. I'm going to pay it with time and deception.
Right.
And I know, and I've got quite the bank account, that the deception account. Because as you're saying all this, I'm like, oh wait, I guess yeah, like she understands, like gonna pay the deposit, gonna get in,
Right.
gonna have to deal with a certain amount of the phone ringing constantly, going to have to keep the doors extra locked because probably got the key changed, I imagine, or tried to,
Yeah,
or the
no, she
locks
didn't do
changed.
that. But
No,
she definitely had different voices. She would call me and pretend to be different people, pretend to be her boss. Like I
shut
realized that
up,
she
really?
wasn't her boss. And because I did that, I called her job. And like she would send emails she would create email addresses to send me emails, but she would like make them like I remember one time she sent me an email and her boss's name was supposed to be Josh Hartnett. And I was like, Josh Hartnett is a famous person. Stop it. Like I looked in the directory, I was like, there's no one there named Josh Hartnett. And the name is Josh Hartnett, but the email address is still your name. You know how
Yeah.
people you can change the display name? I'm like, honey, you're bad at this. And she would be Jamaican sometimes. I mean, it was actually funny when you think about it, like when you step back. But during the time, I was so frustrated. I was like, I'm just a comic who owns a house and that she probably shouldn't have bought, but I just want to just go try to be famous. Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, screw a company that owns a building. Don't screw
Yeah,
me who owns a condo and I'm just one woman, you know?
that is
It
fucking
was,
wait. She would call you and be Jamaican.
she would
That
be
is
Jamaican. She would be, I now know that she was her boss. Like she had a friend be her boss. So when they did the checks and stuff like that, because when I just,
Erin. I mean, you said it during the story that she's given you so many stories, but you get too angry when you're writing them. But I gotta ask you, please just push through because this is a 5 season
oh my
series
God.
of just
Yeah.
because that is such because I bet she's not I mean, I don't think they have like an organized group, but I bet there's like I don't know, squatters, like not what's like a squatters guild. Maybe not
Well,
that.
she probably runs it because this
Yeah.
she. I
Sounds
mean,
pretty good.
and I would put like I would do updates all the time, like on Facebook. Everybody went through this with me for like a year. Like I would just be
Wow.
like, I'm outside the building, like I'm going in, and she would just do. And then
Wait.
she
You
tried
said
to.
she trashed the place, or just?
Yeah, she would just, and it's because I wouldn't even say she trashed it as much as she never called to have anything fixed because she didn't think that I would fix it because she wasn't
Right.
paying me. And so there was a lot wrong. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot. There was a lot wrong. I remember like she kept trying to get me to screw up so that she could sue me. Like when finally looked like she was going to get evicted. Now, then we were just waiting for the marshals to get to her name on the list. She sent me a message and she was like, I'm leaving, whatever, I'll just leave. And then I went into the condo and she had left a bunch of furniture. And because it wasn't the date that she had been evicted, like she hadn't been officially evicted, like my lawyer said, if I had gone in and removed her furniture that she left there, it would have been me throwing away her stuff, right? So they were like, don't move anything out of the condo until she gets evicted. Like, you can't clean it up, can't. And I was like, are you serious? They were like, don't touch none of her shit because she's trying to get you to move her stuff out because she verbally told you she's leaving.
Right.
But it's not, you know what I mean? Like she kept trying to trap me, and they were really good with like, just hold out, just go. If you need to go in there and paint and get stuff fixed, but don't touch any of her shit. Like, don't even take her stuff out of the refrigerator. And it was like, this is my house.
Exactly. And she has not paid me the
and I'm living with my
here.
freaking parents. I'm living with my parents. And I'm a grown-ass woman.
Do you still have that condo?
No, I sold it about a year and a half ago.
I'm sure there's like a level of like, please just take this away from me.
That's exactly how I felt. I was just like, get it out of my books.
I could never, like you just like.
I mean, I got a good tenant after her.
Sure.
But still, I was ready to be done with it.
I just imagine like after she's finally gone, every time you walk in there to show someone like, so this is the living room where this fucking bitch
right
kept her shit that wasn't supposed to be here for a goddamn almost a year. Yeah, I can imagine.
Right.
It's just oh God, but that is so fucking funny. But also like so fascinating because like you said, she was employed.
She made more money than I did.
Exactly. And it was just a choice. It was just like I would rather deal with this constant level of like self-inflicted, or you know what I'm saying? Like like she's going to be getting calls. She knows you're going to be aware of her movements. She'd rather deal with that than just fork over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
like $1,100. Like it wasn't even like, you know what I mean? It was ridiculous.
Yeah. That is, I mean, I don't know. I wonder what she's doing now.
Hopefully 5 to 10. I swear to God.
Wait, do you think did you think she's did she have any sort of like, because you said she had a record.
Was a record of like eviction, not like criminal
but
stuff.
just okay.
Yeah. A record of not paying. Yeah.
You like to think a record of eviction is like the gateway to right. Not paying rent eventually becomes stealing money.
Well, I feel like she's probably okay during the pandemic because she didn't spend any money before. She probably has a lot of money saved. That's what I think.
So much. The idea of trying so hard to break the rules that you invent multiple, like more personalities.
Yep.
That is, you know what? I'm glad you got her out. And I hope she's not I hope wherever she's living, she's being forced to pay rent and not getting away with it again.
I hope so too.
But I'm sort of glad you went through it because I think you're going to do something with it. And I hope you do.
I need to.
It's fucking hilarious. Aside from, you said your Netflix, the special debuted, what, you said a week ago?
Yeah, on the 2nd.
So it's on Netflix
no, almost
now.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, you said you're episode 2 in its, they're ready.
Yes.
Yeah. Tiffany Haddish presents basically. But that's also, I like that she has her own phrase now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're ready. But yeah, I can't recommend to anyone listening and everyone listening that to see Erin's episode enough. I can't recommend it enough. Just please watch She is a fantastically funny person who I was always joyed when we were on the same shows at the Cellar. And I hope
too.
for those days to come back around sooner than later.
Me
Right?
too. I miss everybody.
I know, right? Aside from this Netflix special, you're on social media, obviously. What is it? At Erin?
It's EJ the comic
EJ the
on just
comic.
about everything. Mm-hmm.
EJ the comic. Follow her. Just see this woman in her comedy. It's fantastic. And thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you, Sean.
And go Eagles, I suppose.
Go Bird Gang.
Later.